This is my first XJW video. I am so inspired by all the XJW videos on YouTube that has really inspired me to create my own video and to share my story on what led me to leave the organization. And hopefully, this information and my story, as well as the countless other stories, can help persons who are on the fence about leaving the organization or just have additional questions on preparing themselves to leave the organization. But here is my story. Um, I was introduced to Jehovah's Witnesses through my mom. As a child, maybe 8 or 9 years old, the Jehovah Witnesses knocked on our door. My mom accepted the invitation to have a Bible study. A number of years later, maybe when I was 13 or 14 years old, my mom became a baptized witness, Jehovah's Witness. Um, so throughout that time, from when my mom began studying with the Jehovah Witnesses, and of course, when she got baptized, I was attending the Kingdom Hall meetings with my mom. As a child, I wasn't going to the ministry. She didn't force me to go into the ministry, but I had to attend the meetings, and so I did. Moving forward, I moved out my parents' home when I was about 18 or 19 years old. Um, got my own place. I stopped attending the meetings. Then I became ill, sick, to the point that I had to be hospitalized. And actually, I was told that I was not going to live if I didn't have a the surgery that was recommended. Had the surgery. It didn't. I survived. It was, I survived the surgery and so forth. My first time in the hospital. Um, so that was a little trauma right there. After leaving the hospital, I had a near death experience while in the hospital. My mom encouraged me to come back to Jehovah and to study with the Jehovah Witness. I was reluctant, but then I agreed because growing up, I always heard the spiel of um, it Jehovah Witness religion as being the truth, and that was an affirmation that I grew to accept as the truth. Started studying with the Jehovah Witnesses, became baptized when I was maybe 22, 21 to 23 years old. I became baptized. Let's go back for one bit. Let me go back for one bit. After leaving the hospital, I did accept the Bible study, start studying. I had doubts. Growing up, listening to attending the meetings and listening to the meetings, I had doubts. Something never felt quite right. But they had that affirmation going on. It's the truth. It's the truth. We keep saying the same that thing. It becomes a reality. And so, based on the foundation of the affirmation, it was the truth. I studied. I became baptized. And I accepted it as the truth at that time, although I had doubts in the back of my mind. Um, I became baptized shortly thereafter. I fell into a deep depression. Um, I became inactive for maybe a year and a half, 2 years. Um, I returned back to the organization out of feeling guilt. I was glad to be free, but I felt guilty that I was leaving and I wasn't living up to my dedication to Jehovah. So I returned back. Returned back. The depression came back. I'm just going through a cycle at that time. Still trying my best to make the truth my own, attending meetings, going out into the ministry, preparing for meetings. But it just never, I'm doing all these things on the outside, but the inside I was torn to pieces. In that midst of the time, I was working. I had my own place, working, going to school. They frowned upon me going to school, continue my education. Going to the meetings, studying for the meetings, and going out in the ministry. It then took a toll on me again. Maybe a couple of years in between, but I became inactive again. It just was overwhelming. Um, on one hand, I have this reserve to serve Jehovah and to serve Him and to do what pleases Him. On the other hand, I'm torn because I'm not happy. I'm not happy attending the meetings. I wasn't happy going in the ministry. Um, so I began to have a spiraling effect with me being active and inactive. I'm moving forward, fast forward. In 2016, I accepted a work assignment, a temporary work assignment into another state. Mind you, I had already had a lot of doubts about Jehovah's Witnesses. Within that, prior to that time, a lot of stuff has changed. The philosophy, the teachings have changed. They call it New Light. However, when I began asking questions about the change, I went to the elders as well as the elderettes in the congregation or the elders' wives, asking questions about what was the reason for the change. I was told to research, understood that, but I can only research Jehovah Witness material. I did that. I researched. I couldn't find the answers or understood the answers to the questions I had. I went back. I was simply told to trust the governing body. That didn't sit well with me because my life is on the line because I'm accepting this information or this organization as the truth, but I don't understand. I don't understand the reason for all these changes. And without a explanation, you can't ask questions. So I got labeled as being marked or being it's not hard to please, but I can't think of the word. They called me worldly. Just to name a few things, I was worldly. I began to be ostracized as a troublemaker. That's the key, the troublemaker. They marked me as a troublemaker for asking questions and not really letting that go because I wanted to understand. I wanted to know about the organization. If it's changes, why can't I know? I dedicated my life to this organization, to Jehovah. If he's making changes, why is it only the governing bodies is able to have the reasons for the change? And why can't me as a servant ask questions about the change? Not to challenge them, but ask questions for understanding. So that didn't go well. I became ostracized within the congregation. I was labeled as worldly or difficult and so forth. And so I began to do research on my own. I began to listen to my intuition to know something was not right. The teaching kept changing. They call it New Light. Every assembly, convention, there is new light. If you had it right the first time, why are we changing it? If Jehovah was speaking to you, to the governing body from the beginning, what is the reason for the change? Jehovah doesn't make mistakes. And so I had, needless to say, I had doubts. I had doubts and I had questions that could not be answered. That led me to my journey of seeking the answers. And eventually I left the organization because in my view, in my opinion, it's not the truth for me. Um, um, I'm skipping around a little bit, but I went out of town. I accepted a work assignment out of town for maybe 1 or 2 months. Um, there I began to explore other churches or church organizations. Mind you, as a kid, I didn't go to church. The only thing I knew was Jehovah's Witness in the Kingdom Hall. So we always hear the spiel. The spiel was, we are the only true religion, Jehovah's Witnesses. There's no other organization like us. We are clean people. We orderly. Yes, in a certain extent, yes. So, but I wanted to test it out. And one of the things that I did when I was out of town, I attended church services with other organizations. The cleanliness was the same. The in my in my experience, the organization, they were clean. They were on time, they were orderly. So the spiel with Jehovah's Witnesses saying that they're the only true religion on earth, that's debatable. No other organization is clean and orderly. Now, I prove them wrong in my experience. In my experience, I prove them wrong. However, when I decided in my heart of hearts that this wasn't the true religion, mind you, I didn't need 10 or 15 reasons for not being a Jehovah's Witnesses. I just needed one. The one reason was I didn't believe the teaching any longer. It no longer made sense to me. And I was not going to sit back and just continue to waste my time. So that's what it boils down to. I, I no longer believe in the teaching. It didn't make sense. The changes, it didn't make sense. It did not make sense. And now I was going into the ministry feeling like a hypocrite, encouraging people, our neighbors, to study with us, to learn about Jehovah and all that he has to offer. And I really didn't believe it myself because I didn't know at that point what the Jehovah Witnesses believed in. And I asked, but it was frowned upon asking questions, and I never got the answers to the questions that I had. So I decided I decided to leave, and what helped me leave, for some reason, I was depressed and just not feeling myself. And I was talking with myself, and I asked myself, "What is it that's making you feel like this?" And it came to me, Jehovah's Witness. So I said to myself out loud for the first time in my life, I no longer want to be a Jehovah's Witness. And that was the time when everything changed. I stopped. I discarded all the material that I had. When I returned back from my work TDY, working out of state, I was done. I was done with the Jehovah's Witnesses. I didn't want to return back. Um, I informed my mom, who still is an active Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't want to go. I'm not going any longer, and left it like that. She and we never had a close relationship. However, I have my choice to leave the organization was to fade. And my reason for fading was because of my mom. She's older, I'm older, and I want to have a somewhat of a communication with her just in case she needs me. If she needs me, I want to be there for her. I want her to be able to come to me and for me to go to her and feel somewhat comfortable. And I just felt as if I submitted a official notification that I no longer wanted to be a Jehovah's Witness, that would prevent us from having that somewhat relationship. But again, I came to the point I was done with Jehovah's Witnesses. I wanted to be happy. I did research. I looked at the members in the congregation. A number of the members in my congregations, the congregations that I attended, they were on antidepressants. They were depressed. They were miserable. They were taking medication opposed to getting to the root of the problem. There's nothing wrong with medication. But I believe that some of the issues that they were having was because of the organization and so many rules. How can you really enjoy your life? How would you know what you like and what you don't like? What opportunities would you have? So my road or my journey leaving Jehovah's Witnesses, it's been bumpy. I will admit it's been bumpy. But I'm in a much better place than I was as a Jehovah's Witness. Jehovah's Witnesses claim that no one, we're your friends. Don't trust the world. I couldn't trust Jehovah's Witnesses. One of the issues or the challenges I had within the organization was that I'm a private person and I never shared my information and I never tried to get close to any of the members. And my reasons for doing so because of the gossiping. You talk to the elders, somehow the whole congregation know the conversation or the issue you brought to the elders. Um, for some reason, someone get disfellowship within the congregation for whatever reason, the entire congregation know why the individual became disfellowship. If someone's publicly reproved or privately reproved, the whole congregation know why the individual, uh, the cause for the the approval, the approval. So how can I trust an organization if I'm a private person? And so another thing, they mark me as living a double life. I never lived a double life. I was strictly with Jehovah's Witnesses. I was following faithfully. I just didn't share my information with them. I just didn't share my business. I just didn't. I never had a need to. I never felt comfortable going to the elders and sharing and pouring out my heart to them, because I know, through past experience and through others, that the information somehow leaked out. So I never did. So I was also labeled as living a double life when that wasn't the case at all. I was ostracized within the congregation and so forth. But that goes to tell me and to show me, and looking back with my intuition, Jehovah's Witnesses were not my tribe. I was trying to fit into a tribe in which I didn't belong. I see that now and I understand. They just wasn't my tribe. I knew from the beginning that I didn't fit in. And I tried to fit into the organization. But it never worked out. I never felt like myself. I have a personality. I like to laugh. I'm corny at times. I have dry humor. I have not so dry humor, but that's me. That's my personality. And I felt as if I couldn't share my personality with the congregation. I have thoughts as a person. I have, as a woman, I have thoughts and so forth. But if I'm sharing that information with persons in the congregation, and on a sense, they can go report me if they consider it's not in line with the organization. And I can't. I didn't want friendships like that, so I tend to stay to myself, keep to myself, stay to myself, and that posed a problem within the organization. So this video is getting a little long, but I'm just going to cut it here to let anyone know that if you're contemplating leaving the organization, particularly if you have a family, please make sure your ducks are in order. Perhaps with employment as well as housing or the key factors, and depending on where you live, transportation. If you decide to leave and you're with your family, you may have to make a choice um, between your family and being independent on your own. Meaning that your family may, if you live with your family, they may ask you to leave. Um, that's a possibility. If most times it's, if you're now a Jehovah's Witness, we have to disassociate ourselves from you. So employment, make sure you have sufficient employment to take care of yourself. You have a backup plan. Um, Transportation, depending on where you live. And by all means, if you feel something is not right, research and then trust your intuition. Don't just stay in a pile of mud. Try to get out of it, so to speak. It's a big, wild world out here. Everyone is not out here to get us. There are some good people in the world. There are some good people amongst Jehovah's Witnesses. There are some not good people amongst Jehovah's Witnesses, but that's okay. That's okay. Life is to be enjoyed and learned. We learn from each other's. When someone's telling you not to talk to someone, not to talk to this person, because no, we are born to interact and to socialize and to learn from each other. That's what life is about. So on my journey, it hasn't been all peaches and cream. I'm learning along the way. I'm learning what I like, the things that I don't like, the type of entertainment I like, and so forth. Within the organization, we were told what type of entertainment to partake in, what type of television shows to watch, movies to watch. Everyone dressed the same. Speaking of females, dressed the same. They spoke the same. They wear the same hairstyles. Everything was the same. I'm not a robot. I'm a person. I have a personality, and I don't want to act like a robot. And I want to be able to be amongst people that I can let my guard down and feel safe. And I just didn't feel safe in the organization to let my guard down. It's something to think about. When your intuition, your inner self is telling you something is not right, most times something is not right. Until the next time, take care.